This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Yo, what's happening, Mike? Man, Sunday night, ready to get a good show here together. I think the fans will be happy with tonight's show. We got a plan for them.
No PBA bowling this week though. Disappointing.
We got to give these guys a rest, man. They got a big Masters tournament coming up soon, a few weeks.
I don't agree with that. I don't think they need the rest. I think most of them would be down to keep bowling another couple stops between the Delaware event and the Masters, but nonetheless, no bowling, no betting on bowling. So I had to take some of my bowling winnings and go play some poker this weekend. That's what I had to do. Money burning a hole in my pocket. I had to take it and get rid of it somehow. So I decided to go to the poker room and splurge it around a little bit. Disappointing though when there's no bowling on. Definitely puts a damper on the weekend. I feel like bowling is my football replacement. Like you come off of the football season, and it's like, oh man, football's over. But I don't really get that. I don't really get that upset about football being over, because the last few years it's been like, all right, football's done. Now it's time to focus on bowling. And now that we can really seriously wager on the bowling, it's better than it's ever been. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I severely missed being able to bet on match play Thursday night and Friday of this week. I was like, damn it. Like, there's no tournament on. There's no best of sevens to bet on. Where are my three-way best of seven parlays, son? So, yeah, disappointing, but we'll be back at it soon enough. Masters. Can't wait for the Masters. We're going to be able to put some sick parlays together for the Masters, so can't wait for that to roll around.
Yeah, I'll be there. So I decided
you were going to be bowling. You were going to be bowling. Your brother's bowling, no?
Yeah, brother's bowling. Okay. I'll be there though on the Friday of the match play. So you might be returning the favor for me about sending in some bets, because I won't be able to bet from Vegas. I'm pretty confident I can't do that from there, even though there should be some kind of live betting, like kiosk or table or something where I could put in Vegas while I'm watching, right? But
you would think in Vegas you could just walk up with the Bet Rivers app and be like, these are the odds they're offering. Will you book the same bet? And they'd be like, yes, we'll book the same bet.
So there should be, like, remember in those old like fight movies, like Kickboxer or Bloodsport, where someone's just walking around with the slips, and you know what I mean? I feel like there should be somebody walking around there, like
the Kumite.
Yeah, you could just like submit the bet slips right there while you're watching.
No doubt.
Yeah, man.
Listen, I'm excited, like, for betting on the matchups and being able to watch the matchups as you're betting on them. Like, man, there's going to be a lot of betting options in these various matches, and the odds in some of these matches at the Masters could get interesting too. But all right, let's get to our regular stuff here. League review. Yes, I believe I have 2 league reviews for the people. So not 1 league review, but 2. So 2 weeks ago, we bowled on the short, and I almost shot 300. I went front 7 and then threw it out the window.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
Front 8, front 7 or front 8?
Front 7 or front 8 is not almost bowling 300, Mike.
On the tougher stuff it is. Yes, it is.
No, front 9 or more is almost bowling 300. I wouldn't even call front 9 almost bowling 300. Maybe a lot front 10. How about front 10?
Maybe on the house bullshit you bowl on, okay? But the stuff I bowl on.
I'm not even bowling.
throwing 7 or 8 in a row. I mean, that's getting close. I start to get a little rattly. I'm not going to lie to you. So yeah, threw it out
Purple
the window.
Hammer?
Purple Hammer, all 3 games.
Shocker.
Yeah, I think I could have. I think I got 9 on the one I threw it out the window, or maybe 8. And I was if I would have struck out, I was going to win the high game the first game. Of course, I throw it out the window in the 10th.
Oh, you squeezed.
You 252 or something, some nonsense.
You 252 at the front 7,
something like that. Yeah, just hack. I mean, hack. Like even when I bowl good, I'm hacky. So then I believe for that week I shot. I think I was like 680 for the night. So that wasn't too bad. I know
yeah.
games I didn't bowl all that great, but I was about 680 for the night. I think I finished 3rd in the scratch series for the night. So that wasn't bad. I was happy with that. And then last week we bowled on the medium. I forget what medium we're bowling on right now. I think it's Alcatraz, I believe. And yeah, I bowled really good. Again, I shot like 660 for the night. I went front 8 one game. Again, threw it out the window, missed the head pin. Actually, missed the head pin right, left the 1-2, then chopped the 2 off on the second shot. So that was my hackiness for this week. Missed a couple single pin spares and thought I was dead in the scratch series after the first game because Lou was just whacking them and shot like 279 the first game again for like the 5th week in a row. And yeah, he ended up struggling the last game after having to switch pairs after being on the same pair the first 2 games. So if I would have buckled down and bowled a little bit better, I probably would have won the scratch series, but I came in second. I won a card game too for $140. Actually, last 2 weeks, both of those weeks, I won a card game for $140. So I'll take that. I made a little bit of money back. Whatever. I'm throwing it pretty good. I'm looking at bowling Dougie's event on the 30th up at Lodi. I think I'm going to be there. My weekend's looking good for that weekend. I currently don't really have much scheduled. It's a little 5-game qualifier, 3 games of match play or finals, I think, and then top 5 step ladder, 38-foot pattern, something of that nature. So, yeah, I think I'm going to take a ride off for that. But, yeah, throwing good, drilling some balls, ordered myself a theorem. Got a couple other balls through some connections. Shout to my people. Gave some balls away as always. Shout to my people as well.
Yeah, someone is going full patch pirate mode over here.
No,
getting his balls.
No patch pirate over here, bro. No patch pirate over here. I just, I got people to look me out. What can I say? Shout to my people. I got people to look me out. So yeah. Cool. So yeah. Like I said, bowling good, throwing it well. I just feeling confident. Feel like I'm bowling good. Feel like I have a couple keys that really got me throwing it good. Been practicing at the training center a couple times this last month. So it's nice. It's much more enjoyable to bowl when you're bowling good, right? Especially on the tougher stuff. Like to go in and actually have some confidence. And this past week I was really happy with myself because game 1 we bowled on the end pair and they were really hooking. It almost seemed like the short pattern. And I used urethane game 1. And then game 2 I had to switch to another pair and I had watched this pair throughout game 1. And I knew that the middle of the lane was a lot tighter on this pair than it was on the pair I was bowling on. So I decided to switch balls to an IQ tour and move about 25 left. And that's the game I went front 8, I think, front 7 or front 8. So I was really happy with that. I was like, see, when I make the right decision, I get myself in a spot where I'm seeing it the right way. It makes it a lot easier to just repeat those shots and bowl well and stay on top of it. But, yeah, your boy's bowling okay right now. I'll keep the people updated. We got one more session to go. I'm not bowling this week because we got some family stuff going on this week that's going to make it impossible for me to get there. But I will be back the following week. We're starting with 3 new patterns the following week, and it's going to be PBA. We're bowling on 3 PBA legend patterns. PBA, what is it? PBA, I can't even remember the ones we're doing now, to be honest with you. Hardwick, Monticelli, and Ballard, I think, are the 3 that we decided on. I forget the exact 3. We're doing.
I didn't know these guys had even patterns. Dude, a Monticelli pattern, you could probably stand left and just bang it right. I mean,
yeah, right. You would think so.
Yeah,
if knowing the PBA, they probably didn't even design them that way because that's the way that people would expect and want them to be. So they probably just did some random nonsense.
Like they should base the pattern off of the pro. Like the Eugene McCune pattern would be banging it up 3 with anything.
Yeah,
you could have the Belmo pattern where it would be just a typical house pattern because everybody would just strike on it like he does. So
no doubt,
cool.
So the PBA came out to Arizona. Our boy came out. You went viral on the internet with your post about Bill and the Brooklyn breakfast sandwich. Might have been our most liked post ever, which is saying something. So PBA came out to Arizona. Our boy came out to stay with you. I said to you personally behind the scenes, and I don't share a lot of our personal conversations here, but I'm gonna share this one. I said that I feel like I don't take as much advantage as you when I'm at a PBA event as when you go to a PBA event. Like when you go to a PBA event, people are getting videos from the front of the lane. You're like right in front of the bowlers as they're practicing and shit. You're like hanging around everybody, chopping it up conversations, phone right up in people's grill. Like, yo, we got Mike Albee here, Parker Bones here too. And like when I go, I don't know, I feel like a weirdo, even though I have the little VIP pass and all that. I feel like, I'm just going to post up, chill in the back, and, kind of try and blend in as much as possible unless there's a moment to get hyped for our boy. But yeah, you take full advantage. And I told you, I'm not hating on you for that at all. In fact, the people should know, I told Rob the next time I'm at a PBA event, I need to take more of a page out of his book. Bethlehem, be ready for me because I'm coming for the tour finals, and I'm gonna be everywhere. I'm gonna be standing on top of I'm gonna be standing in the middle of the lane, doing social media posts on Sweep the Rack. I'm gonna be doing interviews with people. I'm getting all up in it.
The thing about it was it was a good event for me because of the fact where it was a laid back. It was an All-Star weekend. So the pros weren't really bowling for a whole lot of competitive anything, right? They were just there kind of fun-wise. So it was cool just to be there. And the pros were really laid back, right? They weren't focused on, competition per se, right? And it was cool because a lot of the pros were able to drink. Like there was a bar there. So there was just a little bit of a laid-back atmosphere. So a few notes that I took from my last what are you laughing?
Just go ahead. Just go.
I know what you're thinking about, and
just go.
Anyway, we read each other there. I know exactly why you're laughing.
Why would you even say that? Just go.
I'm just saying that there was there was a lot of pros. It was just hanging out, laid back. So I took a few notes.
Which pros, Rob? No, I'm only kidding.
Pros, I think you kind of know which pros were.
Okay.
The legends were there to come off of that point, so that was cool to be able to talk to a lot of the legends. Some of the notes that I took in conversations with Bill, off the lanes, in the car, right, driving him around. I was a very good Uber. He's in a really good spot mentally. I mean, obviously he's having an amazing year. He's number 1 in points, but after that brutal loss to the Brooklyn Bug, was a tough one, right? For if I was bowling, I would have, taken it a lot harder. He's just in a really good spot mentally, Mike. Like he's at the point of his career where I think he's just playing with house money at this point, right? 14 titles, 3 majors. I think that he's already accomplished a lot of what he's set out to. One of the questions I asked him was like, if you would have looked back, if you would have looked at yourself at 18 years old, where you are now in your career and thought that you would ever have 14 titles and 3 majors, would you have ever met your wildest dreams thought that? And he was just like, absolutely not. Right now, I'm just kind of at that spot where I'm real relaxed. I think player of the year is probably the last one, maybe a Masters or TOC title. But player of the year, I think, would be the really icing of the cake of his career, right? So I was able to catch up with him. It was a really good few days just to bullshit with him. I got to talk to a lot of legends. Mike Albee was specifically one that was there who I got to speak with, which was amazing because he's kind of under the radar. When people talk about like the top 5 pros or the GOATs, right, or the Mount Rushmore, I feel like Mike Albee gets overlooked a lot, right? And Mike Albee was a regular on Saturday afternoon. And I told him that too. I was like, man, I remember every Saturday afternoon I used to go home and watch you bowl. Nicest guy. Got a chance to not catch up with him, like meet him, right? Which was pretty cool. I talked to Pete Weber, which I've never done before. Got a chance to talk to him for a few minutes. He was really nice to me, which I was, I wasn't sure how he'd be with me, to be honest with you. But he was really nice. And then I know Nico was asking in chat. I did speak to Daria for a little bit. I did speak with her just about coming on the show in May when the PWBA gets ramped up again. So I'd like to bring her on. She's super cool, super laid back. Hey, like it's always fun talking to Daria, right? What could I say? I bought Norm Duke a drink. I mean, just stuff like that. It was, as for the event itself, pretty cool. They built lanes in like on the Phoenix, in a bar in the Phoenix Raceway. So you had to literally drive through like 3 parking lots to get there. It was a pretty cool like setup they had for sure. I obviously can't talk about any of the results of the shows if anybody's asking. It's pretty secretive. They weren't letting anybody really film on their phones during the filming. They had these 3 huge cops. These guys were like monstrous, like telling people to put their phones away. So I wasn't about to get that smoke. But the people have to watch the events next weekend. It was a cool little deal they had. There were some events that were really cool that they had the pros do, and some that I wasn't even interested in. But for the overall fan, I think it was it'll be a good show. And then, I had some conversations with Tom Clark. There was one actually cool conversation that I managed to find myself with EJ Tackett and Tyler Jensen. If anybody doesn't know who Tyler Jensen is, he's the CEO, or he's running Storm right now. So here I am talking to literally the best bowler on the planet and the CEO of Storm, and here I am like an absolute nobody. And I'm just like bullshitting with them. I talked to Tyler for a while. I've known Tyler since he was with Dexter back years, decades. And he used to be in the high rollers a lot. He's a great bowler in his own right too. So I got a chance to talk to him about Storm, about what's going on there. So that was fun. It was in high level conversations, Mike, and here I am a nobody. So other than that, I could probably talk another 20 minutes or so about my experiences there. Awesome. Always cool to rub shoulders with the PBA elite, I guess is kind of where it was. And then also, I'll talk about a story about Kimberly Pressler with me during Worst of the Week, because a little bit of a bait here. I'm giving myself Worst of the Week for a conversation I had with Janae and Kimberly Pressler. So stay tuned for the end of the show if you want to hear why I'm still single. It's probably a lot of the reasons why, having a conversation with Kimberly Pressler. But hey, like we'll see. We'll talk later. But so that being said,
what a tease for the people. What a tease for the people. You're going to give yourself Worst of the Week, and it has to do with Kimberly Pressler. I think the people might actually stick around to hear that. I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
Trust me. Everybody knew about this conversation I had with her. It was like went around like wildfire, and it was like me literally walking away embarrassed. So just dead, just hilarious.
Yeah. So anyway, the answer to why you're still single, I don't know where the story's going, but the answer to why you're still single is because you got no game. So if it's a story about you saying the wrong thing or just just blowing it up the wrong way,
you'll understand. You'll understand when I talk about the story. And the one thing I do realize is that what I say on this show manages to come back and haunt me. Okay. And so I should, at least I'm honest and transparent, but sometimes I'm too honest and too transparent. So Mike, we have a guest coming on, as we all know, Mike Fagan, going to catch up with him. So he's been waiting in the waiting room, listening to our, what do you want to call bullshit or nonsense. So we're going to spare him from having to listen to us anymore and bring him on. So we're going to
showed up too early. You told him wait 20 minutes, and then he showed up too early. 10.
So
that's what happens. That's what happens here. If you show up too early.
Oh, Mike, you're on. Yeah, there you go. As you say, Mike, what's happening, my brother?
What's up, fellas? What's going on, Rob? What's up, Mike? How you been?
It's good. Chilling.
Good.
So, okay. So first off, appreciate coming on. I know the fans have been wondering what have you been up to lately? What's been going on with you? Where are you living these days? What are you doing? And then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I'm back in North Texas, which is basically code for Dallas, Fort Worth. So we moved here about more than that. I moved out of New York in 2011, moved to Texas. We lived down there for about 5 or 6 years and then retired from the tour, went back to school, bounced around the country for a few different jobs. And my wife and I are both working remotely. So we said, where do we want to go? We looked at New York. We looked back in California, where she's from. Both of them seemed almost impossible from a financial standpoint. So we were just like, all right, let's go back to Texas. We've got some friends there. We got married there. We got good memories there. So we've been back in Texas for almost a couple of years now.
Like it. So are you still working in the bowling industry? Because I know you did something where you were working in the bowling industry when you were in Minnesota. So are you out of the bowling industry at this current moment?
I am out of the bowling industry. Yeah, I'm working as what's called a management consultant, which is kind of a traditional path you take after business school. Just working in the consulting industry, getting to see all different types of businesses, large and small, different industries, and working with a lot of really smart people. So just kind of, it's a good training ground to keep growing in your career. So I'm glad to be there. It's been, it's a learning experience almost every day there. So it's a good place to be for someone who has a background like me. Our firm just hired somebody who was a professional rugby player in France for 13 years. So I guess they like athletes.
Rugby's no joke. Those guys kill each other. So, you don't want to mess. You don't want to fight with that guy.
Yeah.
You don't let him win arguments. Like
good coworker to go out to happy hour with, though. Not only is he going to have good stories, but if shit goes wrong, you got somebody who can rock.
For sure, those guys.
Yeah, not afraid.
So personally, are you still bowling at all? Are you bowling league? Are you beating up on the locals in Dallas?
I wish I could say I was, but I'm not. I have not put my hand in a ball competitively, and I haven't put my hand in a ball, period, in almost 3 years. So, we've got 2 little ones. My son turns 5 in a couple of weeks. My daughter just turned 3. My wife and I, our jobs are pretty busy, and the kids are really busy, and there's just not a whole lot of time left in the day.
Rob,
every time I go bowling, I'm really sore afterwards, so I'm not anxious to go anymore.
Rob, obviously, as you know, has no idea what that's like. So yeah, I mean, I can relate to not having a lot of time to do other things you might want to do. Rob,
I can give you a quick rundown of today if you'd like, Rob, just to give you some idea of what it's like in my world on a Sunday. All right. So about 3 a.m., my daughter woke up. I had to sit with her for about an hour and a half, rock her back to sleep. And then around 6 a.m., my son woke up. I got to sleep another hour after that. My son woke up. Luckily, it was daylight savings time, so the grocery store was open. Went to the grocery store, picked up groceries, got home, made breakfast, came back, installed a screen door in my house. Then I went to my daughter's first haircut, and then afternoon, the kids start getting too tired. They're just grumpy about everything. So we tried to put them in the car, go for a drive. Went to get some lunch, go to the playground. And then, we kind of just settled back home, and I knew that I was doing this. So my wife actually let me take a shower on the weekend, and get ready for this. And, then I scarfed down dinner 10 minutes ago, and now I'm here.
Let me premise my
just
day.
Relaxing Sunday. Yeah.
I slept in, I went to the gym, and I literally just took a nap at 2. So, okay.
Hey,
do you miss it? Do you miss bowling though? Do you miss it? Are you caught up? Do you watching the PBA shows? Do you know what's going on tour? Are you missing actually being out there?
So it's a funny question. I miss it, especially now that Bill has been bowling so well, it actually makes me miss it more. I miss the competition. I miss that feeling. You just don't get that type of feeling of needing a strike to stay in a tournament or advance or win. You don't get that in corporate world, right? It's just you cannot get that kind of high, right? So I definitely miss that. I don't miss, the traveling. I don't miss living out of a suitcase. I don't miss like the downtime in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of pros and cons, but it's I'm so far removed from like being at a level where I could compete with a guy like Bill that it's a little disheartening also, but it's also like, kudos for him for still doing it. And I didn't mean to bring up Bill about this, but like, he's in his 40s now. Him and I are similar age. So it's like awesome to see that. And the more success that he has in his 40s makes me think like, oh, wow, I kind of miss that.
I would ask if, like when we had you on a previous time and we discussed, kind of your decisions to discontinue your PBA tour and go pursue your MBA and go get into the business world. And I remember you mentioning to us that there was a season where like you had made every major show and you might have won one or two of them. I forget exactly what the details were that particular season, but I remember you saying like, yeah. And then I got back to September and we were ready to like start the new tour year. And I was sort of like right where I was the previous year again. And I knew that like, man, I'm going to have to go out again and like have that kind of season again, just to try and get ahead or et cetera. So I know that things financially for the PBA were a little bit different back then than they have been of late, since Bolero bought the tour and there's been some of these $100,000 majors and, other events that they've run, like the league bowling championship thing, the elite league bowler series, I think it was called or something, right? So where they basically pitted, if you didn't see it, Mike, they pitted pros against amateurs in a final, right, for like $100,000. So my question would be this, and it's tough because you don't have a crystal ball in life, right? You don't know that that's going to happen. It's not guaranteed. But had you known at the time that change was going to come and there was going to be some, six-figure events to bowl for on a seasonally basis at least, would that have impacted your decision at all or no?
It's really hard to say. In some ways, the PBA now is just kind of on par with what it was when I first started in 2002. Microsoft had bought the tour. We were bowling for $40K every week. We're bowling for $100,000 in the majors, and that's $2,002, right? So I mean, right. The fact that they're giving out six figures now, and some events even paid more, I think it's great. I think it just has to be more, and I don't want to like make this all about Bolero ponying up more money, but it's a pittance for what the company is worth, right? And if I knew that stuff was on the horizon, would have changed my decision. If you would have told me that from a strategic perspective, it makes perfect sense why Bolero would buy the PBA Tour. It just aligns with everything they can create. Even this new sponsor, Just Bear, I'd never heard of them. And I saw them on the PBA, and then I realized they sell chicken fingers or chicken wings, and it's like perfect. They're going to sell that in the bowling centers, no doubt about it, right? So it's perfect from that perspective. They can promote the beer online, or promote the beer on the shows and then sell it in the bowling centers. So from a strategic perspective, it makes perfect sense. But I still think they devalue the bowlers and the time commitment that they put into it. Like $100,000 for first. All right, I was just, I've been doing a lot of nostalgia since I've made this post that I'm sure we're going to talk about. Is like, back in the 80s, they were only paying $25,000 for first, but if you kind of look at how much $25,000 is 40 years later, it's like $80,000, and that's a normal event. So like if every event was paying near six figures, I would say like that is something that would probably stop me in my shoes and say like, maybe we need to reconsider this.
Yeah, listen, I mean, what you said about Bolero and it being a pittance in terms of what the company is worth revenue-wise, I swear you could probably find 5 or 6 clips from the beginning of this show where I have said the same exact thing. And I see other places where they invest bigger money into bowling-related stuff, but not the tour. But nonetheless, we get off topic a little bit. You brought it up. You brought up the post that you put up on Facebook that got a lot of response. It got a lot of people talking, and I know that that's why we reached out to you to come on and kind of not only have a discussion about the this issue of the USBC Hall of Fame and the PBA Hall of Fame and the year requirement, right? The number of years that you're a member requirement, but also to kind of have a larger conversation, I would imagine, about, I would say to me, particularly the PBA Hall of Fame, and whether differences between the makeup of the PBA now and the makeup of the PBA in previous generations, previous decades, however you want to phrase it, and whether there should be some room for discussion in some of the Hall of Fame requirements. But Rob, go ahead. I'm going to hand it over to you because I know you had an idea of where you wanted to go here. You're muted.
I think you're on mute.
So I hit the button by accident. I don't know how I did it. So I was trying to pull up the USBC requirements for the Hall of Fame category, and it's literally like a 5-page PDF. But so then I went and reread your post, Mike, and you're not really disputing, or say disputing, but your post, in my opinion, and I want to talk about why you decided to put the post up, where you're trying to maybe get some change to happen with some of the requirements. But now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're not asking to be put in the Hall of Fame, obviously, because you have to become eligible, and then you have to get considered for it. But you have 5 titles, 2 majors, so you are strictly in a title sense. You are eligible for the PBA Hall of Fame in that sense, on a title sense, right?
Correct.
But for the years, right, since you weren't PBA, I would imagine paying member for, was it 20 years? Then you're not eligible to be considered for the PBA. And I'm assuming the USBC is kind of the same thing, where you have to be a paid member for the USBC for 20 years to be eligible for one of the bowling performance categories, because there's a bunch of different performance USBC bowling categories, right? But you have to be 20 years. So I guess I'm going to ask you, Mike, one, why did you put that post up? And 2, what kind of changes do you think need to happen? And then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. So just for, I'm sure maybe everybody has some background, but put a post up on Friday night, I think of last week. And, I was just kind of feeling nostalgic. I think I realized that the further I get away from my career, the less likely that I will be competing again and coming back. And, it's kind of like I see a lot of people who have made the Hall of Fame who are in the same generation as me.
Luke Audio has some advice for you.
I'm not quite there yet, Lou, man. I still got about 6 years or so. So, all right, let's chill with that for a minute. But, I was just feeling nostalgic. And, I kind of realized that there wasn't going to be any more accolades from me in the bowling world. But I do think that, I had a great career. There was a lot of things that I wish I could have done during my career, or, won during my career. But everything, I wasn't going to necessarily be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame, and I knew that. But at the same time, I did have the requirements, at least from the performance perspective, right? So let me just start by saying that. And the post, I couldn't believe the response. So just thank you to everyone in the bowling community. I cannot believe the response. I think we had 80,000 impressions on the post. So, a couple thousand likes and, 500 shares. And for somebody who hasn't posted on social media in, regularly in years, it was an amazing response. So shout out to everybody in the bowling community who's, who backed it, who responded. Some people responded negatively, and that's totally their prerogative. But I think most of the people responded positively and was supporting potentially changing this rule. So to answer your question about the PBA, the PBA thing is kind of a little bit of a semantics issue. I think in 2019, I just found this out. In 2019, my membership expired because my credit card expired. I just had it on auto pay for years after not bowling. And it just expired. I didn't realize it. And then I'm sure it wasn't really my top priority at the time to get it reinstated. So I never did it because I wasn't bowling at all. And it wasn't that big a deal to me. So I think I'm a couple of years short. I need 2 more years of membership.
Wait, so let me ask you, because this is one of the questions I was going to ask you. Sorry, I was thinking about this. I was actually talking to a few people about it. I was talking to Bill about it actually. This when he was here. If you were paid what till 2021 or 2022, then you would have been eligible just by paying the yearly membership. Is that how it goes?
I think so. Yeah, and I don't think everyone's given me a complete straight answer on that. But it's like, all right, do I need to just write a check? Is that really what this is all about? Just write a check for, a few $100 or $1,000? I mean, I don't want to have to do that, but if it really is coming down to that, then maybe I just have to get my checkbook out, which is kind of silly to me to say I need to cut a check to a for-profit company just to be in a Hall of Fame that I have the performance category to, and I gave 18 years of membership to, just because I didn't hit the 20-year kind of arbitrary round number mark.
That's wild to me. I guess my next question would be is if we, let's just say I'm going to use Simonson for this example. Simonson's 25. The kid's got an amazing performance, agenda, right? Roll resume, right? If tomorrow he was to decide to hang him up, he wouldn't be eligible for the PBA Hall of Fame, because essentially with this rule right now, he would need 20 years. He would have to pay his membership for the next how many years he has left in order to be PBA eligible. Is that kind of where we're at right now with this rule?
As far as I know, yes. Yeah, that's what I understand. But I mean, if I had 25 titles, they may have changed the rule already. But since I'm kind of on the fringe, I understand why it's not necessarily something, but I'm kind of a special circumstance. Most of the guys who have been Hall of Fame eligible have basically devoted their entire career to it. I did get a message. Actually, this whole thing kind of started from a gentleman named Eric Hartman, who's a bowling historian. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know him, but he messaged me about the USBC Hall of Fame, and he understands all of the ins and outs of the Hall of Fame on both the PBA and USBC side. He told me that, after the Microsoft people came in, the rules started to change a little bit, but Mika and Patrick Allen, they both got in the Hall of Fame, I think, on year 20. So they didn't have to be a member for 20 years. They knew the 20th year was coming up and they got in immediately. But something like Simonson, right? It's yes, he would, in current rule, he would have to continue to pay a membership till year 20 and then be eligible per se. What I'm saying is, if you have the performance, maybe there needs to be a waiting period. Yes. You don't want to it's kind of silly to put Simonson in the Hall of Fame at age 24, right? It doesn't, he's got so much left to do in his career. You don't want to necessarily say you don't have to do anymore, right? You want to keep him kind of motivated. But at the same time, if he were to move on to something else, or, God forbid something happened to one of these guys who's eligible at the time, there should be kind of a rule in place to say, if you're NFL or MLB, I think is 5-year waiting period, right? If you're out of the league for 5 years, now you're eligible for the Hall of Fame, something like that.
So follow up, it's safe to say and I looked at both, right? PBA and USBC. For me, you're a lot more qualified in general to be in the USBC Hall of Fame than the PBA Hall of Fame, right? Because you've done a ton more with the USBC between Team USAs, right? Junior Team USAs, gold medals. Do you have eagles? Do you have an eagle with the Open Championships? No. You don't? Oh man, you have to lace them up. I'll bowl doubles. I'm still trying to get a partner, Mike.
I kind of screwed that up 3 years ago. I bowled with Aguiar, and he bowled lights out, and I struggled game one. I think I had 500 in the back too, but I struggled game one at 180, 190, and I think we came up 30, 40 pin short or something like that.
So Mr. Barnes, Professor Barnes is in the chat. He writes, perfectly reasonable to add on an addendum, -5 years from last tournament kind of thing. The point is not to put the players in the Hall of Fame with their primes like they did in the 80s and 90s. So that would make sense, a 5-year addendum. But so for me, like, I think the USBC needs to take a look at your resume a lot like closer, because you do, in my opinion, have more USBC for sure. I mean, and safe to say, like, here's the question though. You were bowling essentially in, like, I don't know how the USBC works with the 20 years, right? Is that how many times you've been sanctioned as a USBC member, or what is that? What is that? I don't get that. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, I guess.
No, because if that were the case, I'd have, 30 plus years, right? I've been sanctioned since I was probably 5 years old. So
clearly they don't give us credit for our YABA sanctioning. They're not giving us credit for the yacht. What was their mascot?
ABC?
Didn't they have like a caterpillar or something as the mascot back in the day?
Yeah, Biff. Was it Biff?
Yes. It turned into a butterfly. Right?
Yes,
yeah, bowling is fun. Biff.
They're not giving us credit for the YABA membership.
No.
So
doubt.
yeah, what about ABC too? Like, I mean, that obviously.
I think they counted all that. But I learned this from Eric Hartman. He basically told me that in order to be eligible for the performance category in USBC, you need 20 years of either bowling in the Open Championship. Now, for a lot of my career, I was actually banned from the Open Championship because I was the top 50 in points. So I didn't bowl it for like a decade or more. And then, or you're a professional tour member for so many years. So right now I have 19 years of eligible. So I'd have to bowl the Open Championship one more time. I think that's more likely to happen, right? But I also don't necessarily have a team or plans to go out there, and to kind of put it lightly, it's like, I don't really bowl anymore. Just to hang this over my head and say like, okay, just go out and bowl the Open Championship, go spend a few $1,000 and bowl it, and probably shoot about 1,700, and, just so you can get in. Like, it's kind of just like, all right, it's very much, it's like kind of this rigid framework that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But Rob, to your point, like, yeah, competed on Team USA, bowl. I don't know what the USBC considers as part of their Hall of Fame resume, but obviously Team USA is part of that. Bowled a lot in Europe and Asia and things like that. That might be part of, that wasn't PBA. That might be part of their criteria as well, like as accomplishment. So yeah, I think outside of the PBA, I think I've got a few more feathers in my cap for the resume.
Yeah, so
people hold on, Rob. People in the chat are actively recruiting Fagan to come and bowl on their team. The chat's going crazy. People,
I have this status with USBC. Like, I cannot bowl with anyone. I can't even bowl with my wife because she was on Team USA or Junior Team USA once. I can't bowl with her. Like,
yo, I got you covered.
You have to bowl with somebody who has like no resume whatsoever.
I got you covered. Right. Me, my brother, you, Big Mike, 4, easy right there. And I guarantee you, Mike, you will beat all of us. Okay, so except for Mike, he's on a hot streak right now. He bowled 660 in a sport league last week. So I
heard from.
And then we just need a 5th, right? And trust me, I could find a 5th, and we could do it. Maybe. I don't know the USB. I know we're not going to Baton Rouge next year. That's for sure. Freaking nobody wants
to
drive
drive there.
Ooh, I would like Baton Rouge. I would like that.
We could go gamble on the riverboat. That's last time I was there, we did while we were there. Hey, maybe we might have to talk offline. Mike, if we can get Fagan to bowl with us next year in Baton Rouge, we could take credit for him going to the USBC Hall of Fame. Like, I think that we need to do that.
Well, I was gonna say, like, maybe take a different approach to it, right? Maybe just pay your entry, right? pay your entry, and then use your trip there to just kind of to bask in your Hall of Fame, announcement. I would maybe not even bowl, just pay, show up, walk around, be like, "How you doing? Hey, how's it going? I'm Hall of Fame eligible right now." You could get a T-shirt that says, "I'm only here for the Hall of Fame." Wear that, rock that. Like,
the voters would love that. Yes, they would love that.
Dude, I swear to you.
Or you could get voted in. Like, I can't just be like, "Yeah, I'm in."
Mike, just hire someone to go as you and bowl it. long hair, blonde highlights.
Right.
Yeah. Big swing, and then
proxy.
Seriously.
Hall of Fame by proxy.
So, what is there?
Talking like AI, like deep fake somebody to bowl and then just like put my face on. Like I was there. See?
Yeah. So next steps here, just to kind of like talk through. Is there anything like the bowlers, or is there anything we can do to try to get this rule changed? Because I know the USBC has that yearly, I forgot what it's called, where they all get together and talk about the dues and whatnot. And you could put bylaws in and rule changes, and they'll do elections. Is there anything we can do to try to put this in front of a committee to try to get this like changed?
I wish I knew a little bit more about the rules and regs of how these type of rules get changed. But I mean, at the end of the day, my post was just trying to start the conversation, which I think I have. I've reached out to Tom Clark. I have yet to reach out to Chad Murphy or anyone at the USBC about this. But, I think just being considered, and it's one thing I haven't shared with you guys, like, I'm sure I could get through, 3 games or 9 games or whatever it is. But, the fact is my shoulder is pretty messed up. So I don't know if I could actually like go back and compete, especially on the tour, at least right now, the way it is. So it's like, to me, that is also kind of the part where I was thinking about it nostalgically and saying, this is probably done. The ship has probably sailed. So just trying to start the conversation. And I wanted to maybe like, I'm pretty sure that I've been reached out to, a lot of people have reached out because of the post. So I think it started the conversation. Hopefully it just gets in front of the right people and they realize that, 20 years for the USBC is kind of understandable because, you compete in these events. You don't necessarily have to be a full-time bowler doing it professionally to meet that criteria. But with the PBA, you pretty much have to be doing it full time if you want to be a successful pro, right? And 20 years is it's a long time in any professional activity, in any sport, in any job, really. So to say that this is a 20-year minimum, pretty much says like if you're in this Hall of Fame, you are a lifer, I guess you could say. And there's not really. I don't know if that's necessarily realistic anymore, to say that someone should stick with something for their entire life just because they want to do that.
I'm glad you said that because, yeah, my thought on this is related to the fact that you're saying that, and I agree with you. I think that that's absolutely true. But you're saying that in an era, right, in an era of professional bowling where it's tougher to do that. It's harder to do that, to take that path, than it ever has been in the history of the professional side of the sport. Okay? So like I spent some time when Rob told me that you were coming on, and I did a little bit of research of my own, and I used Eric Hartman's list of title winners on Jeff Rickles' site 11thframe.com. Shout to Jeff and shout to Eric Hartman.
Was it Eric Cartman or Eric Hartman?
Eric Hartman.
Oh, it's Eric Cartman. I was just
Hartman,
I didn't know there was someone in the bowling industry named Eric Cartman.
Sorry, I think I'm going to have to take the listeners' advice earlier and get a new microphone because they're making fun of my microphone and saying it sounds like a CB radio. So I'm going to have to make that investment soon. I'm going to take some of my numerous gambling winnings on bowling, and I'm going to buy myself a new microphone. Okay, so. How do I even want to state this? I mean, there's several ways that I could state it, but first I'm gonna read a list of bowlers who have the qualifications for the Hall of Fame, who I feel would be either guys that Mike bowled on tour at the same time as for the majority of his career, or that came after him on tour. Okay, and this would be the list in my eyes from the research that I did: Wes Malott, Dom Barrett, Kyle Troop, Jesper Svensson, Simonson, Bill, Rash, Tackett, and Belmo. Okay, and that's that. Now I think there you might be able to add. Does Simonelli have 2 majors? Does Buttriff
I
have 2
don't
majors?
believe so. I think
Okay.
they all both have. Well,
Has
Simonelli
one.
won the U.S. Open, and I believe that was it. And
But
Butcher
Right.
won the Masters.
Right.
That
but
was it.
Simonelli has 4 dumpster diving gold medals this year. So
in
does
one
that
season
go?
alone. No, that's
No.
actually opposite.
What does
That's
that
actually
mean?
opposite.
That last place? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's our awards we give for the weekly PBA season.
Right on. Okay.
We just pick the bottom people at the bottom of the list. So anyway, okay, sorry to butt it. I was just wondering if that was every.
So then when I go further down that list, right, and I brought up 2 of those names already, and those were Buttriff and Simonelli, right, and then some other names further down. You have Dick Allen, you have Marshall Kent, both with 7 titles, and then you have Rhino Page with 6 titles. Okay, and I know he's got at least 1 major in there, and then you have Mike with 5 titles and 2 majors. You have Francois Laveau. That he would probably be another one who would qualify and should be on that list,
Yep.
right? And you have Chris Prather, right, who has 5 titles and is on that list. So when I look at that list, right, when you look at the other, uh, the number of people overall who have these number of titles versus the number of people in recent history that have those number of titles, there's a lot more people that have those number of titles going back in history than there are in recent history. And I think that speaks to the fact that, as we all know, there's been less events. There's actually been less bowling, less titles handed out on a yearly basis as things have gone on, right? You look at a guy like Bill, right, and who, in my eyes, you might be able to make an argument. Well, okay, Belmo for sure, but you might be able to make an argument that Bill's been the best bowler of his generation. Okay, and he has 14 titles. Right, here are some other guys who had 14 titles from past generations. Okay, Mike Durbin, Jim Stefanich, Dave Husted, Johnny Petraglia. Now, amongst those guys, I would say that Petraglia is the only name there that stands out to me as legendary, right? As a legendary name, a best of a generation type name. But yet you have other guys there who, granted, great bowlers in their PBA Tour career, but I don't think that they rise to that same level. But they have that number of titles. Right. And again, I think that speaks to less titles being handed out over time, et cetera. So, first of all, I can't believe that it's that dumb of a situation that you could possibly just pay the money and, and get in. I mean, if that's it, why even have that rule? If that's the solution to guys who are facing that situation, that's a stupid rule to have. But my bigger point here would be, if someone like Fagan isn't getting in the PBA Hall of Fame, then there's not going to be many people from that generation of bowlers getting in the PBA Hall of Fame, and that's just a fact. I mean, when you go back and you look at that list, if I read you down this list going from the top, right, these are all guys that to me bowled in the same era. Okay, Walter Ray, Norm Duke. I'm not even putting Earl Anthony in there. Walter Ray, Norm Duke, Pete Weber, Parker Bone. I'm not even going to put Mark Roth in there. Okay? Mike Albee, Brian Voss, Marshall Holman, Tommy Jones, Amleto Monicelli, Wayne Webb, Chris Barnes, Jason Couch, Mika, Patrick Allen, Randy Peterson, Danny Wiseman. I mean, David Ozio. Do you hear all these names? Do you hear? Here's my point. Are you going to tell me that a Mike Fagan doesn't rank that highly amongst his generation of tour bowlers as some of those guys that I just mentioned in that whole group? I believe that he does. I definitely believe that he does. So I think that, again, if we're just talking, it's the number of years. That's just a dumb argument to have. Like, it really, especially at this point, in where we're at with the PBA Tour and the changes that have occurred, and even with the USBC too. I would argue the same thing. 20 years is a huge stretch in today's environment for someone to be deeply involved with something where they're making that kind of investment to travel to the national event for 20 years in a row. So I think that's
he couldn't even do it. He couldn't even do it because he was.
Go ahead.
So for me, it's like you couldn't even do it. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
No, your argument, it makes a lot of sense, Mike, about generations. And like I said, I was doing a lot of research myself on this topic, especially after Eric reached out to me. And, I could go into a whole kind of conversation about the glut of players that haven't been in the Hall of Fame over the last few years. Like if you think about a lot of those names you just mentioned, right, are bowlers born in the 1960s. Norm Duke, Walter Ray. No, excuse me, not Walter Ray is actually the 50s. Norm Duke, Pete Weber, Mike Albee, Parker, Couch, Doug Kent, Danny Wiseman. Born in the 1970s, there's actually only 4 PBA Hall of Famers. Patrick Allen, Chris Barnes, Tommy, and Wes. So only 4. And if you go back many generations, there was a lot more. And I mean, I think it speaks to the fact that there are fewer events. But at the same time, it also speaks to the megabuck era and guys staying amateur longer. And they didn't come out to the tour and cut their teeth. I could get probably a whole conversation about how this was a huge strategic mistake for the PBA to not think that the megabucks were competitors for talent, and that they were letting these guys stay, like guys like Robert Smith and Tim Mack and Chris Barnes, even stay amateur longer and not trying to entice them to come bowl against the best bowlers in the world. So I think it devalued their product not to have young people at that era. But at the end of the day, like a guy like Robert Smith, no doubt first ballot Hall of Famer, didn't have that long a career on the PBA Tour, didn't have enough time to meet the criteria, and some would say, I think 7 or 8 titles with a major, like that should probably be enough to get in the short amount of years that he did it. But like, it's just their rules. Like if it was, 6 titles and 2 majors were the criteria, I probably would have never posted anything because that I would have been short and I would have just said, fine, that makes sense. But that their criteria is 2 majors and 5 titles. I have that. So let's, at least let the voters decide at that point if they think that that's worthy.
Yeah, well, but unless they want that trend to continue that you just pointed out, they're going to have to open it up a bit. They are already. I mean, I just saw a video this weekend that Steve Jaros got in, right, from the player committee. So they've already made some changes to where they're letting people into the PBA Hall of Fame who might not necessarily have qualified otherwise. And I'm okay with that. I'm all for that. But I think that speaks to some of the issues that we're, kind of pointing out here and highlighting here a little bit. And I just want to comment on this for a minute because Glenn is pointing out that Houston won 3 US Opens.
Yeah, those 2 guys that you mentioned, they may not be in, your everyday names nowadays, but they were huge stars during their time, and they had phenomenal careers.
Okay, yeah, but hold on. Hold on. But they were. Here's my point, though. But they were bowling in an era where there were guys who were even at an increased level from where they were at, and it's a number of guys, right? It's not 1 guy or 2 guys. It's 5 guys, 6 guys that are ahead of them on the list. So that's part of my point. To have somebody like Dave Houston, right, who won 3 U.S. Opens and has 14 titles, right, to have him not be the legendary or amongst the absolutely legendary names that you're going to mention, top 3, top 4, top 5 of that era, is crazy. I mean, that's crazy. That shows you how much opportunity there was to win out there. Because when you look at somebody like Bill O'Neill with 14 titles from this era, there's no question. There's no question that Bill's amongst the legendary names of this era, right? Of his time on tour, his era on tour, his generations on tour, however you want to say it. And that's part of my point. Like I know Dave Houston and his resume, but Dave Husted also competed at a time where Pete Weber, Norm Duke, Walter Ray, Parker Bone, Mike Albee, Brian Voss, okay, they were all out there competing too. And every one of those guys that I just mentioned has more titles than Dave Husted, despite his 3 U.S. Opens. Okay, and you got Pete, who has 5 U.S. Opens and bowled at the same time as him. So again, how many opportunities were there to win out there versus where they are now? You know, and,
totally.
and that's part of my point.
I would completely agree. I think that somebody like myself and Bill, who started around the same time, you know, we kind of caught the tail end of a lot of the superstars that you just mentioned from, you know, 80s and 90s, Walters and Petes and Norms of the world, right? So we have to beat them. We have to beat Barnes and Mika and Parker and you know, but then you start to kind of bleed into the next phase, call it 2010 and beyond, which is basically the Belmo era.
The Belmo era.
Right? I mean, it's the Belmo era, right? Like you have to beat him, and he's making the top 5 in 50% of the majors that he's bowling in, right? He's winning like 10 or 20% of the majors that he's bowling in. Like, and that just doesn't leave a lot of opportunity when one guy is winning, you know, 20% of the tournaments, right? There's just not a lot left, especially if you're not bowling a 30 or 40 week season, right? You're bowling 14 weeks. So yeah, it's like, you know, Belmo's kind of like in another planet. And then, you know, what is from a generational standpoint, like you can't argue that Bill's not in the top 3, right? But because of what he had to bowl against, it just makes it kind of, and the conditions of the amount of events, like it just makes it harder situationally.
Shit, Mike, you should be in the Hall of Fame just because you were the loser on that.
Mike,
you are.
Mike, I knew it was coming up.
That shit alone should be worth like 2 titles, I feel like, at least. Oh my God.
The emotional scars, yeah.
Well, no, I feel like because Mike has to relive that moment 3 times a year. He has to relive it on the anniversary. He has to relive it when the U.S. Open actually airs, and then he has to relive it because Barstool doesn't know when the date is, and they will just throw it up there. So yeah, he's going to be a part of social media memes and anything else where the "Who do you think you are? I am" is you know, blasted on social media. So he gets reminded of that strike every 3 times a year. All right, Mike. Well, we're gonna let you go here because you know we know you had a big day of fixing doors and grocery shopping, but we appreciate it. And you know what? If you let me know, I will be more than happy to drop an email to Chad Murphy and just ask him, how do we get this rule changed, or what can we do to help you get this rule changed? What do we need to officially do? You let me know, you send the word out, and I will be more than happy to be your spokesperson on that. But I'm pretty sure you're very capable of doing that yourself. But I will throw that out.
Are you guys fans of Better Call Saul? You know the show?
I am, yes.
Okay, so
I could be
you
your
know
Saul
the
Goodman.
Huel Babineau episode?
Yeah,
where he mails like, you know, 3,000 letters to the DA. Like, we just need 3,000 handwritten letters dumped on Chad's desk. That's it.
I think we could do that here at Sweep the Rack. I think if anybody could do it, it's Sweep the Rack, especially go down the Saul Goodman road. So hey, you let me know, give me the word, and I will get that going.
Let me look into the camera for a second because Chad. Change the rule, Chad. Let's go. It's a silly rule anyway. Okay.
I expect a call from Chad here.
Love it. I'm intimidated. All right.
Hit us up and email us if we need discussion. But let's get that done.
All right, Mike. We'll let you go. We appreciate it.
Pleasure as always, man. Anytime. Happy to chat with you guys.
No doubt.
Thanks, Mike.
Take it easy, Mike.
Bye.
Later.
It's just silly. I mean, silly. It's just silly.
I mean, the one thing that's kind of stuck out to me was the fact that you need a 20-year participation in the U.S. Open Championships, and they didn't even allow these guys to bowl the U.S. Open Championships for, you said, almost, 10 years?
Right.
So, like, how is that even a rule? Like, to me, it should be if you're a good standing USBC member, regardless if it's the Open Championships or not, then that should qualify for that, right? I mean, to me, what's the point? Like, that's to me should be the eligibility rule. And if there's any Hall of Fame that Mike deserves to be in, yes, he deserves to be in the PBA Hall of Fame. But for me, he's done a ton more in the USBC part of it, right? I mean, this kid was traveling the world since I could remember, since juniors. So, there needs to be something maybe changed on the USBC part, my opinion. How that gets done, that's another question. I think that could be further discussion with the USBC.
All right, Rob, are we ready to wrap things up here?
Yes, sir. Let's do it. Real quick, though, I want to pull Thomas's comment here. Fluff Fagan, but borderline PBA Hall of Fame career. There's no disputing that. It's the fact that he just wants to be eligible and be considered for it. He's not saying that he's a shoe-in. His accomplishments for the PBA is a shoe-in Hall of Fame resume, right? His point is that he's eligible in a title standpoint, and he wants to be just, be able to get considered for it. And I think it would be, it wouldn't be like a unanimous vote by any means, but he just, would like to be considered. And I think that's where it is. So, all right, Mike, you want to get into my worst of the week, or do you want to get into yours first?
Go ahead. You can go first.
Okay. So as we know, in the beginning of the show, when I talked about my experience at the PBA All-Star Challenge, I am giving the worst of the week to myself this week. Okay. So we could pull out the show. We could pull out the comment that I made probably last year, but I did make a comment last year. And it was in regards to Kimberly Pressler's duress on one of the shows. And I did comment, that I said on the show that if the PBA wanted to increase ratings, Kimberly, I guess, quote unquote, would show more cleavage. And that's what that's what I said on a show. I believe it was last year. It could have been even 2 years ago, right? We've been doing the show for 5 years. So I've known Janae, who is working with the PBA. It's PJ's wife. She's really good friends with Kimberly. So I went over to Janae to say hello. And I saw Kimberly, and I was talking to her a little bit, and I asked her, I said, hey, so we were supposed to have you on the show, but things didn't work out. Like, how do we make that happen? Because I like to get Kimberly on for an interview just to see how things are going with her PBA experience. And she looked at me with a straight face, and she said, Mike, she said, aren't you the guy that made a comment that if the PBA were to get more ratings, like I need to show more cleavage? And I literally was just like, yeah, that's probably me. And I didn't really know how to respond to that. So I'm just going to kind of walk away from this conversation right now. And Janae literally sent a text message to a bunch of people, and it was a Homer gif of Homer going back into the bushes, because that's exactly how I felt. And so, yeah, so I was super embarrassed. I was like, man, I got to watch what I say sometimes on this show, right? Because it got back to her. She knew I said it. So then the next day, I saw her again. I was there 2 nights, and she walked by, and I looked at her and said, Kimberly, I was like, you look so lovely tonight. What a beautiful dress you're wearing. And she was cracking up. She was a good sport about it. I really did. I apologize. I probably shouldn't have said that. But, hey, like, I can't sometimes apologize for my brutally honest and transparent comments that I make. I'm kind of unfiltered sometimes. But, yeah, so that was my worst of the week. I give it to myself. I probably should watch sometimes what I say on the show, but being me, sometimes that's hard to do. So,
no doubt, it's a good worst of the week for the people.
She was a good sport, Mike. She was laughing about it. She was giving me a complete hard time about it, and she probably had every right to do it. But I mean, look, it was funny to me. Yeah, sometimes I shouldn't say some shit, but it is what it is.
Yeah, first time one of us has gotten worst of the week, as Nico's pointing out.
Yeah, I'm giving it to myself.
Yeah, my worst of the week comes to us from one of our listeners. Augie emailed us this one, so shout to Augie for the email. It's from the Bowling Science Forum, and
wait, Mike, I thought you weren't reading this anymore. The forum.
No, I said I was back on them.
Oh, you're back on it. All right, hey Nico, write that down. Write that down on your notes. Mike is back on the Bowling Science Forum.
I had a hiatus, but I came back a few weeks ago. It's from Adam Allen. Here's the post. Last night, I broke out my Motive Magic Ruby 1.5 and came out strong. I was able to get my hand behind the ball and get increased revs, which increased my strike rate. What I realized is my spares were tougher to make. Is it because the type of pants I wear? Because I went with a jogger style type material, and therefore my steps and my approach were a little faster. Looking for advice because I want to improve on making my spares, as that they all say spares pay the rent.
Okay, first off, if there's anybody that shouldn't be giving advice on this bowler on how to make his spares, it's definitely not Mike. Mike, you should not be letting him know what pants you're wearing.
Don't wear Jordan shorts. I'll tell you that, because they don't help you shoot spares at all.
Don't wear those nut huggers when you're bowling. I mean, this you just how if you're missing spares, I mean, yeah, it's probably not your pants. I'm not gonna lie.
That's got to be the best.
Probably not your pants.
That's got to be the best reason for poor spare shooting I've ever heard.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say. The next time I bowl a tournament and I miss the cut by 30 and I missed 88 pins worth of bakeable spares, I'm going to say, these damn pants. I need to throw these out and get a new pair of pants to shoot my spares.
I could just see like picking out your clothes before you go bowl league, and you're just like, yo, I'm going with the jeans tonight because I have a higher spare percentage when I wear my jeans.
Denim, chinos, and Jordan shorts. That's all bowling brings. Jimmy in the chat. Oh my goodness, that's too good. That is too good. All right, Rob, let's wrap it up. Final thoughts, Rob.
Yeah, second half of the year, Mike. Masters starts the last half with this All-Star break. I do like having the split of the season in like kind of halves with the All-Star break in the middle. I think it does give a little bit of a. You don't like the break as a fan. I like the break for the players, and like they can kind of regroup, figure out what's going on. I know Belmo went home. I swear to God, that guy, he goes back and forth from Australia to the U.S. like how I drive to work, which is crazy to me. Like how he can do that on a travel perspective. It's nuts. But I know he went back home. I know he's looking forward to second half to kind of turn up a little bit. Graham brings up in the chat who we got as a sleeper for second half of the season. You know, the thing about sleeper is I think at this point in the PBA Tour, I think there's really 4 guys right now that is really kind of like you expect to be up there. It's EJ, Simo, Bill, and Belmo, really. Like, and I know Belmo hasn't really had a good first of the season. He self-admitted it this morning. I watched the stream. He did. The Masters is going to be a little bit of a crapshoot. I'll be honest with you. That format is brutal when it comes to getting it through. It's a lot luck of the draw. Bowling best or total 3-game matches. You have a little bit more control, but hey, look, like if your opponent shoots 750 at you in the first round, which I talked to Bill about, Andrew Anderson did that to him one year where Andrew shot 750 at him, and that loser's bracket is brutal, Mike. So the Masters is always a little bit of a crapshoot as the pros to get through, but the World Series of Bowling is still going on. There'll be a lot of titles be given out that week, and there's a lot of pros that can make up some ground. My prediction, I think EJ Tackett will win. He will eventually win 1 or 2 the second half. I think he's going to get out there and he's going to start winning. I really, honestly, I love Bill, good friend of mine. I really want Bill to win Player of the Year this year. I really want it. I really want it for him. He's earned it. He's needs to have a really good second half. He's got to win another title or 2, Mike, to make sure he's.
I'd say one major or 2 titles.
I want to see Bill win the TOC. I think Bill has a better chance at the TOC than any other than any of the other majors right now. So yeah, it'll be an awesome second half. I think it's going to get crazy.
So you like that? I think his best shot might be the World Championship, just because he's bowling so good on almost anything right now. So I would expect him to, like be in the running of that tournament pretty easily through the qualifying patterns on the different animal patterns that they're going to be putting out for the World Series. So yeah, I definitely am looking to that event. So like, all right, if things kind of trend the way they've been going with his performances, then yeah, I would think that he's almost a lock for match play there, and then anything can kind of happen from there. But yeah, I share your sentiments, Rob. I would really like to see him get the Player of the Year thing done, being that this year got off to such a great start. Not to say that he won't have other opportunities going forward, but just the way the season started, like now you're going in the second half, and you're definitely in the top two for Player of the Year if it ended right now. So definitely time to put your foot on the pedal and make it count. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the bowling coming back too. I'm excited to see what Bet Rivers does for the Masters this year. And like what we're going to be able to bet, and if they're going to have all the matches listed with odds.
I bet you they do.
I'll bet you they do too. I hope they do, and I hope we're able to parlay numerous matches. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I may even have it might call for a day off that week. Honestly, I mean,
hopefully, because I'm going to be relying on you, because the plan is to get there Friday morning of the match play, and to be feeding some info on what I'm seeing out there to try to help out. So I won't be there Thursday. I'm going to be at a pool party with my brother. So
okay.
Yeah, so Friday I'll be there. Hopefully Jeff will still be bowling. Jeff's good, man. Jeff could make a run, I'm telling you. Like he's
no
good.
doubt.
He's a good bowler, my brother. He's bowling, and I'll be hopefully I could root for him.
I got Jeff to make the cut.
I'm hoping he does. Like he's been working really hard practicing, and he could bowl. He could straight out bowl, my brother. So I'm hoping I'll be there to see him maybe bowl would be pretty cool. And of course, if Bill makes the show, Mike, I have the plan on staying there for the Sunday show. Okay. So to me, that would be even more incredible to be able to sit front row. Hopefully front row, I can get in there. And I told Bill I'll make the magic happen in the crowd. You just got to get me on there. So yeah, I know Nico's been asking about the league stuff. I think that'll be next show. We'll talk through some of the league changes. We don't want to get into all that.
If that's it, Nico, I got a take for you on that. If that's it, it's bullshit. That's what I have to say. If those are the only changes that are made, then that shows you what bullshit this PBA League is from the perspective of the managers and the players.
Ooh, that's a hot take. All right,
if somebody like Boog Kroll, okay, or did Wilkins get picked up?
He did.
Okay.
It was Wilkins, and it was fuck. Why did I just?
I'm going to give you another name then. If somebody like Boog Kroll or Nate Stuber didn't get picked up, then it's bullshit. I mean, it's it.
Yeah. I didn't expect a lot of changes to happen. To be honest with you. I was even surprised a few got dropped.
Are you telling me that any team in this league couldn't find a guy who Boog Kroll could replace the way he's bowling? He's like 5th in points. Come on. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys on these teams that could be dropped and replaced with him, and you're probably getting a better performance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think what's his name was Sherman was dropped. I think he's injured, so I think he's dealing with an injury. Cortez got picked up. I did speak to Cortez at the All-Star about it. All-Star break, congratulated him. Cortez got picked up. Zach Wilkins got picked up. But no trades.
I mean, no disrespect to Cortez Schenk, but how does Cortez Schenk get picked up before the two guys I just mentioned? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Hey, we'll talk more through it, I think, next week. I don't think there's any really bowling on this week either, right? So
no, I don't think we'll be on Thursday. I think probably
no, I'm thinking Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, maybe even take a week off. We'll see.
Maybe.
With no bowling going on, maybe we'll come back when after the Thursday
the
that Masters match play is going on or something. But yeah, we'll keep the people up on it. Check us out on social media. He's at Brooklyn Rob 11. I'm at the 215. Hit us up through email, sweeptherack@gmail. And everybody have a good week, and we'll keep you up on when we'll be here next.
Hey guys, like and subscribe to the channel, please.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.